So let me walk you over to chalkboard number 1. This is the deep state machine. So the deep state machine, how does this work? Okay. At the core, it is just really a self-reinforcing ecosystem. It is a living, breathing, and growing organism. I wanted you to take a look at this. This is agencies like the CIA, FBI, NSA, and the ODNI. They feed intel, often right here, to the NGOs. So these agencies, this is where it's planned, this is where it's hatched, somewhere in here, okay? And then it's fed down to the next level, to the NGOs, to the think tanks. These groups launder it into independent reports. So all of a sudden, the NGO, let's say the NED, or let's say it's a law firm, Fusion GPS, or the Atlantic Council, or a defense contractor like Raytheon, or just the media. They get the story passed down to them. These players may be involved, they may be hapless dupes, but it's fed down to them. And then, have you ever worked at a place that had a consultant come in and do research? And it's my experience, at least, that consultant always leaves verifying what the boss thought was going on. I've never had a consultant where I'm like, yeah, well, that's independent. They really got that one. It's always been, they're just reinforcing. That's what's happening here. This is passed down here just to reinforce and give this answer down to the third level, okay? And that's the media. It amplifies. They cite anonymous sources. It's narrative engineering at its finest. And in the ODNI report, released by Tulsi Gabbard last month, details on how this works, how the 2016 intelligence community assessment on Russian interference was manipulated to target Trump. But I also believe to kick the dust and the trail clean for what I'm going to show you on the other two chalkboards tonight. On December 9th, 2016, despite previous analysis that Russia did not manipulate the election, Obama's security team met in the Situation Room to discuss a new approach. The attendees included Susan Rice, James Clapper, Andrew McCabe, John Brennan, Ben Rhodes, Loretta Lynch, Jay Johnson, John Kerry, Victoria Nuland. Remember those names, okay? And they're all basically members from all of these agencies with big, scary names, the three-letter agencies we've come to expect. Now, this time, new marching orders were given. Now the goal was to change the framing. Russia had to be the bad guy, and their chosen candidate would be President Donald Trump. Quote, "The IC is prepared to produce an assessment per the president's request that pulls together the information we have on the tools Moscow used and the actions it took to influence the 2016 election. Notice it doesn't say that this is based on new information or new intelligence. We have a new whistleblower. We've got some super secret intercepts that prove whatever. None of that. This came per the president's request. Obama was unhappy, and the witch hunt commenced, or should I say, the coup commenced, because this is what it was. Any dissenting views, they were suppressed. The Durham Annex goes further. It reveals how the FBI failures, when they failed to prove Clinton's plan to link Trump to Russia, they refused to consider the intelligence to be credible, even though the CIA was all but screaming to them that it was credible. But here, black and white, redacted, as they like to do. But how do they operate? Okay, levers of operation. So let's just take the Donald Trump thing. These guys decided, no, this doesn't fit the narrative. We want to go for this narrative. So the boss, the president, said, we need this narrative. So these guys went down and they fed a bunch of things, Fusion GPS, the think tanks, the media, sources Confidential sources, unnamed sources tell us that Donald Trump is being investigated. So they're feeding it here. These guys, if they are hapless dupes, they're really stupid at this point. But I believe they know what they're doing because they keep getting it and going from the very same source. Then the levers of operation. The levers of operation is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the power of the impact comes. The first thing to do is surveillance. Now remember, just like that consultant that goes to your office and finds what the boss is looking, they are not actually doing surveillance and going and getting a FISA because they have information. They are looking for information and they're looking for a specific answer. So the FISA warrants are based on unverified documents like Christopher Steele, which started up here, came down to Christopher Steele, then went down to the media, then went to FISA. And remember, this was funded by Clinton's campaign through Perkins Coie. This one, private company law firms, Fusion GPS, Perkins Coie. And the Durham investigation showed how it was weaponized through Russiagate. So the FBI goes to the FISA courts, and they can't get what they need to tell the FISA court to be able to get a wiretap. So somebody in the FBI actually alters the documents to ensure the FISA applications on President Trump went forward. Second, election interference. Right here. The 51 Intel experts, remember that? 51 Intel officials labeling the Hunter Biden laptop Russian disinformation. Remember that in 2020? That is straight from the playbook exposed in these reports. According to the polls, 79% of the country believed that truthful coverage over Hunter's laptop would have changed their vote. But we didn't get truthful coverage. We got deep state manipulation. We got propaganda from 51 intelligence officials who we all trust because we're dopes at this point. And the media did what they were told. Disinformation. Remember, all Twitter and everybody says, well, the FBI came to us and said this was going to be coming out. They fed that down here, and they fed it down here. Now, the third part is funding, and this is amazing. Tax dollars flow through agencies like USAID and the State Department to NGOs. We're going to get deeper into that later, but here's a teaser. USAID funneled $270 million to George Soros adjacent organizations for democracy, programs for democracy all over the world. And don't forget the media coordination. Remember that meeting in Obama's White House with all of his national security heads? The people that day, up until that day, all of them had been saying Russia was not a threat. They were not an election threat. Well, the new marching orders came through and the narrative shifted. Didn't really take very long. And remember, not because of intelligence, but because the president directed them to change it. Guess what the media reported. On the same exact day, this article. Secret CIA assessment says Russia was trying to help Trump win the White House. How could they on the same day? He just said, this is what I want. Somebody went out and fed it to the media and they amplified it and we're off to the races. Now, let's zoom out a bit on the chalkboard. Who are the organizations involved? At the top, we have the government core. We have CIA, DNI, FBI, DOJ, and DHS. Next, the next layer, we have the NGOs. That's like the Soros Open Society Foundation and about 5 million others that the State Department and USAID have used for things like democracy building. Next, we have the think tanks. The Durham Annex brought this little wing of the deep state out fully into public view. Apparently, multiple highly respected think tanks were allegedly read in on Hillary Clinton's plan. They included the Open Society Foundation, the Atlantic Council, the Carnegie Endowment, and the Center for New American Security. So Durham's Annex just called them collectively think tanks. But we can also potentially add in others that appear to have deep state motivations. Organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations, Brookings, the Stanford Internet Observatory, they all at least appear to launder research out to the public. This is a massive propaganda. The guys at the top come up with the narrative. They get people to prove it, leak it. The media gets everybody juiced up to believe it. Then you have the media, surveillance, and the unnamed officials, and you have powerful money behind that, pushing it through. So there's no way to not believe it. You've been hypnotized. This is propaganda. Now, the last on this list, the Stanford Internet Observatory. It was outed by Michael Schellenberger's team for being part of a censorship program with the Department of Homeland Security. Now, let's not forget, law firms like Perkins Coie, despite everything else that's been linked to them, who did they hire again? Oh, yeah, that's right. Fusion GPS. And we can't forget the defense contractors. Booz Allen employed Edward Snowden. And what do we know what he exposed? There's also things we haven't really learned about yet. How far does this alliance between spying intelligence, the intelligence community, potential domestic operations go with just our defense contractors? Did you know that Raytheon was mentioned multiple times in WikiLeaks disclosures of the CIA's classified cyber program known as Vault 7? That's a whole episode. And lastly, we have foreign allies. They're up here with the government agents. These foreign allies. I mean, no way, right? I mean, they wouldn't dare get involved. Oh, wait a minute. Let me look at this story. What is it? British spies were first to spot Trump team's links with Russia. So you have foreign allies jumping in and helping. The UK, in this particular case. The UK's version of the NSA, the GCHQ, alerted Obama's team in 2015. Now that's interesting, especially since we now know this was a giant operation cooked up by the Hillary Clinton team, then seemingly perpetrated by Obama. The deep state isn't just made in America. We know this because we watched what was happening over in England. And we're watching how laws are passed in every country in the Western world. The same laws, the same. We saw 3 or 4 heads of state elected under the banner of Build Back Better. It's all connected. So why now? Well, Gabbard's ODNI release and Durham's annex are the wake-up calls. They show how the Obama-era national security leaders orchestrated a Russian hoax to subvert Trump. But this isn't new. We'll show all of this later in the show because there's a really distinct pattern. It's not just about that. We trace this back through history. This machine thrives on secrecy. It is very complicated. It's hard to understand, but they're counting on you giving up, not understanding it. With all of these declassifications, the veil is lifting.